Oh my god, the long way is over, and this video took a bunch of hours delay because I had to do a whole bunch of crap and get everything all set because my site that I do my picks on is no longer around, so I had to find an alternate for the meantime. But the day has finally arrived, and it's now time for me to begin making my picks for the 2019 NFL season. Now, of course, before I begin the video, let everyone know the dates of all the videos. In most of the weeks, I'm going to do them Thursday morning. Except for the week of Thanksgiving, I'm going to do it on Wednesday. And the final week of the season, which will be on Saturday instead. And any other weeks that don't have like a Thursday like night game or something like that, it'll probably be like the day before. So keep that in mind for the rest of the schedule. But for the next bunch of weeks, it'll be on Thursday morning. So hopefully this year I'll do good with my picks, because last year, don't remember if I did better or worse, but it was only slightly. And, oh man, all over the place last year. Last year was really unpredictable. So, anyways, we start off the NFL's 100th season, even though it's actually only 99 years old, with the kickoff game, which instead of the Patriots hosting being the champion, they decided to do a 100th anniversary like special for the oldest rivalry in the league, even though I don't really view it as one. I guess that's what happens when you see the Packers dominate all the time, and that's the Packers at the Bears. Of course, the Packers lost last time out when they visited the Bears. They split last year, as they're trying to avoid having a third straight losing record in a row. Meanwhile, the Bears are trying to once again get a winning record and make the playoffs for a second year in a row. This will actually be tough as hell. I'm not fully sure, even though I predicted the Bears to go very far. I'm still not fully sold on them. I got a funny feeling that they might struggle this year for some reason. Just like the Packers. I mean, you really don't know what to say about the Packers right now. I mean, seriously. Like, every year we think like they're going to be making the playoffs, but then they choked the last 2 years, even though the first year was because Aaron Rodgers missed most of the year. But you really don't know. And I mean, I think the game last year when they visited the Bears was still close, too. So, it can really go either way. I'm going to pick the Bears, though, but do not be surprised, though, if the Packers somehow get it. Do not be surprised whatsoever. And then we get to Sunday action as we start off with the Rams at the Panthers for the first time since 2013, as the Rams have not beaten the Panthers since 2010 as they begin their Super Bowl hangover, which, by the way, I think they're going to have a hangover. And I think I've looked up because, remember, before the year, we were wondering if Cam Newton was going to play whatsoever. From what I've seen, like, in the last week, it sounds like he will start, thankfully, for them. So that's good, because I'm actually going to pick the Panthers for this one, simply because because the Rams I don't trust. I think they're going to have a big hangover this year. So I'm picking the Panthers for this. And then it's the Titans at the Browns for the first time since 2017, as the Browns haven't beaten the Titans since 2014, I believe. And this is a rematch from in the middle of 2017, remember, where the Titans barely beat the winless Browns in overtime, remember. And ever since then, the Browns have gotten much better, and the Titans, they've kind of gotten somewhat worse, to be honest with you. They are not in good shape whatsoever. And because of that, I think I'm going to pick the Browns to get this one. And then it's the Chiefs at the Jaguars for the first time since 2013, as the Jaguars haven't beaten the Chiefs in God knows how long, probably at least 10 years or so, as of course the Chiefs were the #1 seed last year in the AFC, runner-up to make the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, the Jaguars were the previous runner-up in 2017 after having that terrible season last year, a make-or-break year for them, and we'll see how Nick Foles does with that team. Will they actually improve? It'll actually be quite good now for the Jaguars, since the Texans, Colts, and Titans all struggle. Maybe they can get back in and win the division somehow. And of course, it'll be very interesting to see how the Chiefs do after the missed opportunity of making the Super Bowl last year, especially see how Patrick Mahomes does in his second year as a starter. I think the Chiefs should not underestimate the Jaguars whatsoever. They're going to be tough, especially that hard defense. But I still think the Chiefs are probably going to win this, but I won't be surprised if the Jaguars somehow get it. And then it's the Ravens at the Dolphins for the first time since 2015, as the Ravens, of course, last year won the division. This is, of course, the game I'm going to be force-fed to watch for Sunday. And, of course, I'm very interested and worried to see how the Ravens do, since they've gutted the entire team last year, the offseason. And, of course, Lamar Jackson, really interested to see how he's going to do his first year as the full starter. And of course, I must say, this is a trap game for the Ravens. Yes, the Dolphins are probably like the worst team in the AFC, but the Dolphins always do good against the Ravens. So, Ravens, do not, and I repeat, do not underestimate the Dolphins. They are going to be hell for you. But I'm still going to pick the Ravens, but I will not be surprised at all if they choke it and let the Dolphins win. And then it's the Falcons at the Vikings for the first time since 2014, as both teams made the playoffs in 2017, but missed the playoffs this year as the Falcons had to deal with all those injuries, had their first losing season since 2014. Meanwhile, the Vikings, of course, missed the playoffs when they choked at the final week. This will be interesting because I think the Falcons will have quite a big improvement, make the playoffs as long as they don't have the injuries to deal with. And the Vikings, boy, the Vikings are going to be really weird and interesting. I'm not fully sold on them after they choked last year. But as long as the Falcons don't have any injuries going to this game, I think the Falcons are going to get this. And then it's the Bills at the Jets, as we'll have hopefully Josh Allen being a starter and Sam Darnold going after each other, as the away team won these games the last year or so. So, this will be very interesting. Remember, the Bills destroyed the Jets last year when they visited them. My God, that was unexpected. However, I don't think that's going to be the case right now. Although, I do think it's going to be interesting between these two, as these are probably going to be the two teams that are going to fight for that second spot in the AFC East, which could possibly, although very unlikely for both of them, maybe make it a playoff berth, perhaps. I'm picking the Jets for this one, mostly because I'm not fully sold on Josh Allen yet, but who knows? The Bills' defense might actually shut down Sam Darnold. You never know. And then it's the Redskins at the Eagles, as the Redskins, oh boy, 6-3 last year, only to finish 7-9 once Alex Smith went down to injuries, and the Eagles managed to sneak into the playoffs. And they're going to be massive threat possibly this year, as long as Carson Wentz stays healthy. And of course, the Redskins' Case Keenum starting probably statistically was really no different than Alex Smith was last year, so probably going to be around the same. But of course, that is not going to be enough to beat the Eagles, which, by the way, the Redskins have now lost 4 in a row to the Eagles. They've been swept the last 2 years in pretty convincing fashion, too, I must add. And I'm picking the Eagles, of course, for this. And we finally get to our 4 p.m. game, starting off a matchup between the two AFC wildcard teams last year. The Colts at the Chargers for the first time since 2013. And, of course, this would be one hell of an interesting game to see, but, of course, Andrew Luck retired, so sorry, Aaron. Even with Jacoby Brissett, which, by the way, that'll be very interesting to see how Jacoby Brissett handles this full year as a starter, but I'm going to have to pick the Chargers for this one, sorry. And then it's the Bengals at the Seahawks for the first time since 2011, as the Bengals, oh boy, that incredible start to the year, only to choke it away. As this is now the new non-Marvin Lewis era, I think they're going to struggle badly this year. Especially when they have to visit a team that was playoffs last year. And the Seahawks will be very interesting to see how well they handle this year. And I'm going to pick the Seahawks for this one. It's pretty obvious. And then it's the Lions at the Cardinals for the second year in a row, which the Lions beat them last year. As the Lions, very interesting to see how they're going to handle. Maybe they can get out of the losing column they had last year. Meanwhile, the Cardinals were the worst team last year in terms of record. And I'm pretty sure Kyler Murray's going to start. That would be interesting to see how he does in his first start. But I'm not fully sold on him. Even with him, the Cardinals team is so bad still, especially that offensive line, which the Lions would have no trouble eating up. So I'm going to pick the Lions for this one. And then it's the Giants at the Cowboys, as, geez, God, they always force this game at the beginning of the year for like the last 5 years, if you think about it. Unbelievable, but hey, at least it's not Sunday night for once. And I don't know why they make it a 4 p.m. game when both teams, well, especially the Giants, are nowhere near good enough to challenge the Cowboys. And of course, the Giants will be interesting to see this year. Probably in the final year of Eli, it's a question of how he's going to do. Will he play the entire year, or will he be benched eventually for Daniel Jones? And, of course, the Cowboys made the playoffs last year. And, of course, they managed to re-sign Zeke, which I had to take into account in my picks back a week ago, because I did not fully envision him playing or not. Even though I did not think they were going to have him in this game, I still picked they were going to win. And, of course, with him playing now, that's going to be the case. I'm picking the Cowboys. And then it's the 49ers at the Buccaneers for the second year in a row, as we'll see how this game goes. This could be an offensive shootout since it wasn't the case last year when Jimmy Garoppolo went down with injury. He'll be back, so we'll see how he does. And of course, this is Jameis Winston's last chance. And with Bruce Arians being the coach, maybe he could turn him around and make him the franchise quarterback that he once was. This will be interesting to see. Although I probably should say maybe the 49ers are more talent-wise balanced than the Buccaneers. I'm picking the Buccaneers still for this one. And then we get to Sunday night, which should have honestly still been the kickoff game anyway. I mean, yeah, as the Steelers visit the Patriots for the first time since 2015. As, of course, oh boy, the Steelers. Oh boy, they did a massive cutting this last offseason, getting rid of Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. So this is going to be a transition year for them as Big Ben's the only one left they have really on offense. And of course the Patriots, it'll be very interesting to see how they do this year, especially since Brady struggled last year. Could maybe, perhaps, Brady have like a 2015 Peyton Manning level collapse? I mean, that's probably way too bold to predict, but I mean, you never know what could happen, because he did not play as good last year in the last bunch of years. But of course, Patriots are at home, Steelers are gutted pretty much, so I'm picking the Patriots still for this one. And then we get to Monday night, as we start our first of two Monday night games, with the Texans at the Saints for the first time since 2011, as of course the Saints tied the Rams for the best record last year. They were the #1 team in the NFC, just fell short of the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, the Texans, of course, made that surprise 11-5 finish after going 0-3, but unfortunately for the Texans, their offensive line's still crap. Yeah, they trade for Laremy Tunsil, but oh boy, they gave up so much for him, and they let trade Jadeveon Clowney to the Seahawks. Man, there's no good vibes with the Texans. I had not good feelings with them going into this year, but now my feelings are even less than it was beforehand. So I think the Saints are going to even more easily get this. And then we get to the final game of Monday night, as it's the Broncos at the Raiders. Funny enough, because remember last year's game, that was Monday night. That was the last Monday night game too, and this year it's one of the first ones. As of course, let's see how the Raiders do under John Gruden's second year in that second stint. Meanwhile, the Broncos, very interesting, since they got Vic Fangio from the Bears, so that defense is going to be very stoked. And of course, they got Joe Flacco, who's now, I think, going to be the full star for years, since Drew Lock, I think, is going to miss the entire season. So, oh boy, you still need to get that franchise quarterback. Sorry, like Flacco's ceiling is going to be probably even worse than Case Keenum, possibly, and look how well that turned out last year. So the season is going to really rely on him probably doing good, along with that defense playing good. And I'm not fully sold on him yet. We'll have to see how they play on Monday night, but right now, I'm picking the Raiders for this one, but I guess I won't be surprised if the Broncos defense somehow wills a win out of this. So those are my picks for week 1. I can't wait for Packers at Bears tonight, along with all the rest of other games to start off the year. That'll be quite interesting to see. And remember to tune in next Thursday morning, where I'll do my recap of week 1 and talk about my week 2 picks. So see you guys then.